Welcome everyone to the Almost Cancelled TV podcast. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Connor.
Yeah, I'm still just about here. Maybe we'll find out as we go.
Yes. Well, we've got a selection of things to talk about: renewals, cancellations, premiere dates, pilot orders, all that good stuff. Hopefully,
And at least one of my 3 topics of knowledge.
synchronized swimming.
Oh no, that just doesn't quite make the cut. That's like 4th.
Okay. So yeah, a bunch of stuff to talk about this week. As far as just before we get into everything, there was a lot of TV stuff happened in the past week, just in terms of like shows finishing or debuting. So I mean, one or two of these might have been before the last episode, but just in recent week or so, we've had the end of The Boys season 3, Stranger Things season 4. We had the end of Star Trek Strange New Worlds season 1. Reviews of all those things are all up. Go check them out. We've had the return of Better Call Saul at second half of the season. Our review of that is up. You go check that out. I reviewed some pilots. I did the Resident Evil pilot.
Did you love it?
It was just kind of bland and generic.
So you loved it?
No, it was dull and boring.
Was it fan servicey?
No, not really. It was a bit CW, to be honest. Which is not what you want from Resident Evil. Is two sisters and one's been kind of bullied, and I'll be there for you, sister, always. What is this? Anyway, I also did the Moonhaven pilot. Those were voted for to be done by patrons. A lot of things the last couple of weeks. In terms of not reviewed content, I did actually finish Miss Marvel's season. I'd fallen behind by one, but then watched the last 2 episodes this week.
How did you find it by the end?
It's a really frustrating show. Episode 1, great. Episode 2, not quite as good, but still feels like the same show. Episodes 3, 4, and 5, bleh. Episode 6, this is back to feeling what I wanted at the start of the show. Basically, there's a group of villains that are kind of introduced in episode 3, and they take up a lot of like what 3, 4, and 5 are. And I really didn't like any of that stuff. The show would be much better without it. The good news is that Kamala herself is extremely likable and charismatic. Her supporting cast, me and her family and friends, are all really likable. They've got a good sense of community superhero kind of thing going. So the hope is that for the future, there's more good to come. But
yeah, I've kind of had it muted. Like I just mute all the Marvel stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
Just so it doesn't flood my timeline every week, with just nonsense that I don't care about. The only thing that I saw, because it wasn't on Twitter, was one of the Google suggested articles, was they finally dropped the M word.
That's good. There are spoilers here. That's a bit spoilery.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a bit spoilery.
All right, okay. From the headline that I saw, it didn't seem spoilery.
But just like the end of the show, I will say there's a music sting associated with something that happens right towards the end of the show that people are freaking out about, and I think the moment is well done because it's a surprising little pull. I'm too lukewarm on Marvel as a whole to just be excited because they're teasing things coming, but there was an interesting little thing to throw in there to make people take notice. But
I have no idea what that is in reference to be honest with you, but that's cool.
Yeah, and then there's a little thing that teases the Marvels movie that Kamala's going to be in with Captain Marvel. So,
Oh yes, I forgot that was a thing. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, it's coming next year, I think. So
next year, really?
Yeah, the mid-credit scene kind of teased something to do with that. So yeah, it's still one of the better ones, but it's a shame that half of the show, literally 3 out of the 6 episodes, was mostly overtaken by things that I didn't like. So that is a shame, but
it does suck.
Hopeful for the future. I was maybe going to do a video talk about the season as a whole, but I realized that I didn't have enough to say. A couple of sentences here was all I needed. But yeah, so there you go. Miss Marvel also wrapped up this week. So yeah, a lot of things starting and ending right now. So most of what I just mentioned, though, it does have reviews out, so go and check our reviews out of that. Connor's on the Better Call Saul one. The rest are
I am.
mostly me. Although Tara's with me on the Strange New Worlds finale. She was doing that show with me. So, variety of things to go check out if you haven't already. But yeah, let's get into the news. Renewals to start off with. Dr. Death has been renewed for season 2 by Peacock.
I have no recollection of what this is because I don't remember anything on Peacock, it seems.
Yeah, so the new season will feature the Miracle Man storyline based on the most recent third season of the podcast. So it's kind of anthology based, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, they've got a new showrunner as well for the new season. But I mean, season 1, just going by the image here, had Joshua Jackson and Christian Slater in it. So they had some cast members. Yeah,
All right.
thing.
It's not terrible.
So you're getting season 2 of that on Peacock. Next up, season 2 has been greenlit by FX for The Bear. Do you remember The Bear from our conversations?
Is this the cooking show or like about a chef?
It is about a chef, but do you remember why it was notable to us?
I remember laughing about it a lot, but I don't remember why.
It's because the description had 4 examples of professional and personal in it.
Yeah, it did. That's that
one. That's what this one was. Yeah, so let's get to season 2 at FX. So there you go. The description they put in this article is not the same one because it doesn't have the 4. I checked when I saw.
So you can't read it out again and make me die. Actually, I would die. It'd be fine, but whatever.
Yeah, and there's at least one though. There is one professional and personal in there, but it's not the 4 that the original.
This isn't the time of the show that you get to read those.
No.
Yeah,
of course. Next up, Maya Rudolph's Loot has been renewed for season 2 by Apple TV. The workplace comedy. Yeah, I didn't really know what it was either, but there you go.
I'm not familiar with that one.
That's in season 2. This one I've heard of. Only Murders Left in the Building is renewed for season 3 by Hulu.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was Only Murderers Left in the Building, but this article just says Only Murders in the Building.
Either you've been reading it wrong because your way makes more sense if you're just reading it. So it's possible you've just been reading it wrong at a glance every time you've ever seen it.
It's possible it's what do you call that thing? The Goldstein Bear thing? The Mandela effect.
Yes.
Yeah.
That or they put a typo in this article, which is also possible.
And the one cancellation we have this week is Close Enough, which is a HBO Max animated series that's been cancelled after 3 seasons. So.
Okay.
Which means it must have been there right as it started because it's had 3 seasons.
I was going to say that, or it moved over from like
true,
HBO itself, maybe.
It may have moved, yeah. And then premiere dates, we got a couple of not new shows, but a couple of returning shows to mention here. Chucky season 2 is going to premiere on October 5th. So similar time to last year. It's Halloween season. They don't know when to start because it finished around Christmassy time last year. So it's going to do the same again. I wonder what they do with the time period, if they're even going to follow like real life time as they're doing it. But season 1 was a pretty enjoyable, wacky show that followed up the movie series, the original movie series, and kind of did a lot of weird things. So kind of curious to see what season 2 is going to be. So that's 5th of October. That's starting. And then season 3 of Star Trek Lower Decks is coming in August. That's the 25th of August specifically. 10 episodes, season 3 starting then. And I've only seen the first episode, but the general buzz is that it's actually a pretty good, animated comedy Star Trek show. And up until Strange New Worlds, most people were saying it was the best of the new Trek shows. So
yeah, I know our friend James says it's like one of his favorite Trek things in general.
Yeah. So it's I think one of the people from Rick and Morty work on it. So it's just you can kind of have an idea of like your Rick and Morty Futurama style, but with Star Trek. And yeah. So I'll probably binge the seasons that exist at some point when I'm in the mood. But it's not been
It's all on Prime, something like that.
Well, it'll be on Paramount Plus soon.
Oh
if it's not already.
I forgot all about
that. Yeah, Paramount Plus is launched in more places, including the UK. So
they keep telling me I can have a free trial. I can go watch Halo, and I'm like, yeah, but. So
yes, that is your season 3 of that. We do have a few trailers to discuss this week. So we'll start off with, I have to admit, the biggest of the three is The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, which is a clunky title, but whatever.
It is. I will grant you that.
Well, I mean, it's the first TV show. You could just call it Lord of the Rings, and it wouldn't matter that it's the same name as the movies because it's a TV show. Or just call it The Rings of Power, and just like it'll Lord of the Rings. Well, people will know it's connected.
I think you probably could have got away with just The Rings of Power. I understand why you don't call it just Lord of the Rings, because you don't want people to think it's an adaptation just of
Sure.
Lord of the Rings, and also that's a bit more awkward to search for, right? Lord of the Rings TV show would still come up, but if you search Rings of Power, you're going to get much more specific things, I think.
Yeah, but yeah, so there's a trailer here. I didn't really know what was going on. It was a bunch of wigs, some fantastical looking like locations, and the cheesy, typical monologue about fate and destiny and purpose or some shit.
I thought it looked pretty great. I was very concerned in the first few seconds when a music cue comes in, and it was. I'm pretty sure it was the Rivendell theme. I think it's part of the Rivendell music from the first movie.
Riverdale?
And
I'm getting confused.
What?
Riverdale music?
Rivendell.
Riverdale.
Yes. The elvish city that they're in. But I was concerned because I kind of wanted them to distance themselves. As much as I love Howard Shore's music for those movies, they are, some of the best music ever created for films. I did kind of want them to distance themselves from it a little bit and kind of do their own thing. The rest of the trailer was fine in terms of the music, but it was the very first little cue that comes in at the very start of the trailer.
Yeah, but when they play this
from that.
When they play this in places though, because I'm assuming they're going to put this in like movies theaters as well. Not playing with the movie trailers, but you often get TV trailers during the ads at cinemas. I suspect that the point of that is that immediately you hook people because they recognize that little sting of music, and then
I just thought it was an interesting choice because I don't think it's the most recognizable piece of music from those movies. I don't know how many people if you're playing that just on the street to someone. I don't know how many of them will go, yeah, that's Lord of the Rings music. But maybe in the context it'll work anyway for most people.
Maybe that's the point, is not to use one of the obvious big touristy themes and to try to take one of the lesser ones and expand upon it.
Yeah, it could be.
I mean, I don't really have much to say. It's like I see these settings and I start to fall asleep. Like it's just.
Oh, we got obviously younger characters who are familiar, who some of us are familiar with from the movies. Not Pete, obviously. You got Galadriel's obviously the main one in this trailer, but you got Elrond in there. You got Isildur and Elendil, which tells you a lot about the time period. This is kind of the rise of Sauron. Is presumably what this show is going to be telling. Which is exciting. There's some stuff that we may be interested, because there's one point you see like a comet shooting down around the not hobbits. I thought what they called them. They're like half-foots or something. The hobbit ancestors, but visually is very similar to the description of Gandalf arriving in Middle Earth, but that doesn't quite line up with the timeline. So either they're changing things a little bit in the timeline, or they're doing something very slightly different. I'm not sure, but intriguing for me anyway.
I'm so happy for you. That was me hoping for a second that because of the asteroid there was going to be, we're just going to leave the planet and go into space and be a sci-fi show instead, and just leave.
No. We leave Numenor and go to Middle Earth.
But what? Where's Numenor?
Numenor is like that big massive city with all the men in it that you see early on in the trailer.
Is that not in Middle Earth?
No, it's across the sea. So Middle Earth's the continent, essentially.
I thought Middle Earth was the whole thing.
No, it's not.
Wait, so they're on Earth? The planet's called Earth?
It's complicated. Tolkien had a whole theory, it like jotted down in notes that So the Third Age was where the Lord of the Rings was set, and essentially that's like his take on a historical Earth. And again, not literal historical because it was like a mythologized version. But then I think essentially in his timeline, we would be in the Fifth Age right now. Or maybe this, I think maybe the Fifth Age ended with World War II. We might be in like the Sixth Age now. But yes, they're in Earth. A version of Earth, essentially.
This is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely fascinating. Ah, dear. The gobbledygook that was coming out of your mouth when you were listing character names you recognised. I'm like, these all just sound nonsense words. None of these are names.
They're all names. They're all names from a linguist.
Where's Fred and Sally? Or I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was Sam not good enough for you?
You never mentioned Sam.
Well, no, but I'm from the films. Sam.
Aye, but he's mates with Frodo.
Yeah. But it's still. I picked the most normal one on purpose. Stop undermining it.
Frodo.
Is that weird?
Frodo.
Yeah, it's like very old English, similar to like Germanic English back then, like Saxon stuff.
Let's move on, shall we? To American Gigolo, which is the trailer for
significantly less interesting
for a Showtime series starring John Bernthal. Yeah, so he's it's actually a reimagining of a 1980 film, which I'm not particularly familiar with. But he is a gigolo who is framed for murder, gets out like 15 years later once they've realized, oh shit, he never did it. So they let him out, and it's about him getting back into the gigolo game, whilst clearly there's a search for who the real killers are, why the person was killed, so on and so on.
He was framed because it seems like he thought he'd done it as well.
Yeah, because he wakes up next to the dead body, so he's not sure what's happened necessarily. Yeah, so what's weird is that a detective or investigator who's looking into everything is played by a very weirdly out of place Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah,
that's a bit weird. I don't know. It's like, wait, what? What's happening here? But yeah, so yeah, very very odd. It's got kind of a it looks like a Showtime show. It's got like it's trying to feel cool, a bit sleazy,
very edgy looking. It doesn't look like it has much to actually set it apart.
No, if anything, the biggest thing that it's really got is John Bernthal in the lead role, and it looks like he's bringing it. Like he's going to be John Bernthal.
That's not that exciting for me, at least personally. I don't dislike him, but he's not enough of a draw for me either.
Nothing about the way it was sort of teasing the mystery of who killed the woman and the backstory was all that exciting. There was a lot of shots of him seemingly in his backstory, which makes me think it's going to be like a 2 timeline thing. Perhaps
I don't know. It's like a lot of early stuff and then we jump ahead.
Yeah, unless maybe the like we spend the entire first episode perhaps like up until the kill and then it jumps ahead after that. Yeah, which maybe it does. But
yeah, I could see that could be a choice they made.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not particularly feeling it overall. It doesn't look the worst thing ever, but it also looks like it's going to be I don't know. I would say it looks like trash. I think that's a bit too harsh, but it definitely looks like just a Showtime show.
Yes, it looks generic for a Showtime show, which is not the lowest of the low in terms of their quality bar, but it doesn't look like a must-watch either. At least not for us, I don't think. Maybe if you're really into these style of shows, maybe having another one of these, that's great.
Yeah, there's a lot of shots of him putting on fancy suits and walking from like fancy cars, and look at us, we're all glamorous and he's hip and cool and all that stuff. So there's that. Then another trailer we looked at was 5 Days at Memorial, which is an Apple TV Plus show based on a true story. It's basically a hospital during Hurricane Katrina where there's some questions about some of the patients at this hospital, whether or not they died naturally or via the disaster in this 5-day period, or if some of the medical staff chose to end their life for possibly out of mercy reasons rather than anything else. Well, that's what the trailer told me anyway. The trailer was teasing this sort of moral question of Do you leave a patient to die slowly because they can't be evacuated, or do you make them comfortable and end it quickly for them before you leave?
Yeah.
That seemed to be what the trailer was hitting at. I wasn't expecting, when I heard about the show, I wasn't expecting so much big budget kind of like, disaster movie looking shots of the water coming in. I was kind of surprised by that.
Honestly, the trailer made me feel a bit uncomfortable with how much it focused on that stuff, because it's like, when you get like, the odd thing that's set with like 9/11, where it's like, like, I feel like about this, like, Katrina, it's not like, relatively speaking, it's not that long ago. This still like affected a lot of people that, people remember this pretty well. And
yeah, people lost family members who are still...
Right, and this had like literally decades long impact on the community there. And I don't know, like this felt like, hey, we're going to play up the disaster movie side of it a lot, and that just felt a bit uncomfortable for me.
Yeah, like, I think, the comparison to 9/11 is interesting, because I feel like, whenever they want to, like, allude to the fact that they're in that setting, or this is happening, like, generally speaking, the way I prefer they handle that is either you see just the real news footage of the time, like, played on TV, or you just kind of, like, have it, like, off, like, you don't see it directly, you don't do literal shots of it happening, I'm thinking of, like, scenes in, like, Travelers, when they did something, where you don't see the impact directly, you just see sort of the aftermath and kind of realize, oh, that's where we are and what we're doing. Or something like that, yeah. So having these big CG shots of water, like, going through the streets and, like, people screaming for their lives, it just kind of feels a bit...
Yeah, obviously I'm not saying you can't show these moments. Like, I'm not saying you should avoid them entirely. Just, I don't know, as a trailer, it felt like it was like, hey, look at this budget, look at all this stuff we've done. And it felt like it was playing it up a bit.
Half the trailer felt like a Roland Emmerich movie.
Yeah,
that's the wrong tone to be striking, I think, with this.
Yeah,
especially since the moral question that it wants to kind of poke at as the trailer goes on about, like, the choices that may have been made with these patients in the hospital, like, that is actually an interesting moral debate to be having, depending on the context.
It is, and from what I can gather of it, it seems to be most of the show should be in that, the aftermath, right? Not in the event itself. It's, okay, yes, we're flooded. Yes, there's all this disastrous stuff going on.
Yeah, courtroom drama where you see, like, when they're talking, you flash back and we see...
Yeah, there'll be a lot of it in the hospital, not in the moment of everything happening itself. So the fact that we spent so much of the trailer on that was a little uncomfortable and unnecessary. And I hope it's not like that for the whole show.
Yeah, there was a lot of shots of, like, people going through water and, like, even, like, riot police, like, pointing guns at them. And I was sort of thinking, like, when does this take place in the context of the focus of this story is? Because it feels like it's not necessarily, and it may be like, maybe if you watch the show, it'll feel completely relevant when it actually does come up. Maybe it's just a montage of things. This is what's going on as the main things are happening, and that'd be fine. But because the trailer's so full of it, it just kind of feels like, oh wait, when is this all going to come into play?
Yeah, it's weird for a show that the premise is such this moral quandary, which is perfectly valid, thing to set your show in. It felt like a very action-heavy trailer, like it was, and it just felt unnecessary to me. But maybe this is all.
This could be a trailer problem.
This could be just 10 or 15 minutes in that first episode, and then it's out of the way, and then the rest of the show is great. It could be, but I still think it was a bad choice for this trailer.
Yeah. I honestly, this could genuinely just be a great show. I mean, I don't know if it is. I mean, it may be terrible, but it could be a great show exploring this idea. It's just that the trailer, they decided to give it a trailer as if it was an action movie, and it doesn't really work. Yeah,
it's also the sort of thing where I'm not entirely sure why they decided to set it on such specific true events.
Yeah, they could have just done a similar stylist thing. Yeah,
like if your show is what do doctors do in a natural disaster? I think they said, oh, you got some narrations like should I end their lives and be mercy and give them a painless death, or should I leave them and leave them to suffer and die slowly and painfully for days? Like, if that's your premise, which is that was the ethos of the show, you could have done that with anything. It didn't have to be, let's choose, Hurricane Katrina, let's choose, a specific event.
I think this is less a creative problem with the people designing the show and more about just a larger problem of, like, things based on true stories, like, sell well because it's sexier and it's more provocative.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So yeah. The show might be fine. The show, you know, Vera Farmiga is the lead. And I often think she's pretty good. So the show could be good, but I don't think it's a poorly toned trailer for what it is ultimately. At least what I think it's supposed to be. Anyway.
Yes, what we're assuming it's supposed to be.
So some other tidbits then. We have a title finally for The Boys spin-off. This is the college set, you know, college for supers
Yes.
boys show. The title's actually kind of genius. It's called Gen V.
That's good.
Yes. If you don't watch The Boys and don't get why that's good, it's because the serum that's given everyone superpowers is called Compound V. So Gen V is a play on, obviously, you know, Gen X, Gen Z, whatever. And that. So yeah, it's just a fun, especially because you tend to only talk about Gen something usually when you're talking about the younger generation. So it's interesting to see them use it here. So that's quite funny.
I know. When it was pitched, you know, a couple of years ago at this point, it sounded a lot like their take on like an X-Men style thing.
Mm-hmm.
What was the quote earlier? They called it a college show crossed with something specific, and I don't know if it'll be in that article you've got there.
I don't know if it is, but it says it's going to be a roller coaster filled with blood, guts, and everything else. Set in America's only college exclusive for young adult superheroes, run by Vought International. That's a good, important point. Gen V purports to be an R-rated series, not surprising given The Boys, that explores the lives of hormonal competitive supes as they put their physical, sexual, and moral boundaries to the test, competing for the best contracts in the best cities. It's part college show, part Hunger Games.
That was it, Hunger Games. Because I remember seeing it and going, huh, that's interesting. Not necessarily like, oh, exciting, but it changed my perception of what the show might be. Because that, you know, Hunger Games brings its own set of connotations to it that definitely changed it from just being this, you know, the boys' edgy take on X-Men.
I can kind of see how it fits in though. Like if this idea that they're all competing for like the best contracts and like, you know, sponsorships and stuff, I could see Vought wanting to like stoke them into like, yeah, like show you're better than the rest of them. So
yeah, I can see it. Definitely interesting. And from I think Kripke, showrunner of The Boys, was talking recently and kind of implied this is kind of must essential watching. This is going to run with plot threads from the season 3 of The Boys. The presidential campaign will be like running through the background of this.
Oh, that's cool. That's a neat way.
And then he did say that, you know, this will then, you know, bounce back into season 4 of The Boys. We'll pick up on stuff that's in this show.
So this is coming next. I do like the idea that because we've got something that would be on TV that we know about from The Boys, the idea that it'll just do the campaign will just be on TV occasionally in the background when they're doing stuff. Makes a lot of sense to me. It wouldn't surprise me if a character or two from this does end up in season 4 of The Boys for necessity's sake, depending on what's going on. So
I can already see, you know, like hypothetically, you know, the winner of the big contract competition gets a shot at being in the 7, for example.
Yeah. There's potential. So here's hoping. Next up, Criminal Minds, which has been sort of in the works to have a revival for a while. It's finally official. Paramount Plus is doing this revival. It ran for a long time. 6 of the original cast, or at least I shouldn't say original, because I don't know if they were all there from the start because it ran for a long time, but 6 of the cast that were on the show, the original version of the show,
the core cast, yes, shall we say, yes,
are coming back. So this is part of why it's taken a while. They had to get everyone lined up. I actually recognize like half of these names, which just surprised me, to be honest. So Joe Matengna, I don't know how to say his name. Kirsten Vangsness.
You're having a great job tonight.
I know. Adam Rodriguez, and then the 3 that I actually recognize: AJ Cook, Aisha Tyler, and Paget Brewster. I know those 3.
Yeah.
From other things.
Aisha Tyler was in there. She joined fairly late in the show, I think. Well, as I felt like it was a long show. She I'm sure she was still there for like seasons.
Yes.
But relatively speaking, late.
Yes. So they're they're going ahead with this. Cool, I guess. I mean, I don't really care, but it seems like
it was your favorite show of all time, isn't it?
Oh yeah, hi, sure. But it seemed like something of big enough name value to note. So that is that. Also, a quick little tidbit: Jeff Goldblum is replacing Hugh Grant on a Netflix series called Chaos. And honestly, I just kind of chuckled because Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park does nothing but talk about chaos. Not spelled the same way, but
that is not the one-for-one swap I would have expected. When I think, okay, you need a replacement for Hugh Grant, Jeff Goldblum is not who my mind goes to.
Yeah. So the spelling here probably makes sense if you know Greek mythology, because the darkly comedic Greek mythology reimagined series Chaos. So it's Kaos. So he's replacing Hugh Grant, who's pulled out due to date availability. So nothing nefarious around. Just
that actually would have made me really fast, because assuming that this is a Jeff Goldblum role now, and I should expect, if let's say that he was a reasonable fit the whole time, that's why they've pulled him in. That makes me fascinated to see what Hugh Grant would have done in it, because it's not a typical Hugh Grant role, I would say.
No, he's playing Zeus, by the way, Goldblum.
Oh my god, I love it. I love the show already. I'm going to watch the hell out of this.
Bet you will. So there you go. That's Chaos, now starring Jeff Goldblum. Happy days.
Most anticipated show of the year.
Yeah, it is. All right. So just before I get to the comedies and dramas that we're talking about this week, I'll just take this time to mention patreon.com/MailFuzzTV if you want to support all the content and keep everything coming. This TV news is most weeks now, assuming we can get it done in time, will be up early on a Saturday and then go public on the Sunday. So if you want it a day early, that's at the $5 tier over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. But it obviously helps support all the other reviews and movie podcasts and everything else we do, which also means I should mention MailFuzz Movies, where the movie podcasts live. I do one with Tim for about horror movies, one with Tara about sci-fi movies. So go and have a look. Okay, mid-show plugging has...
I need to pay attention again now.
It's finished, yes. So first comedy up this week is Amazon Freevee. Still getting used to that name. Is given a straight-to-series order to a remake of a British comedy called Friday Night Dinner. I'd never heard of this. You know this?
Oh, I've seen, not all of it, but a good amount, yeah.
Yeah, I'd never heard of this. It's a Channel 4 show, apparently.
It starred one of the In-Betweeners not long after the In-Betweeners finished.
Is that how long the In-Betweeners has not been on? Is that there's been a 10-year show that starred one of them after that finished?
Yeah, we had 2 movies as well. Remember that? Even the second movie was like a while ago now.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't like In-Betweeners. I didn't really watch it, so...
oh, shit. I have no idea when that second movie was. I've got to check.
I'm pretty sure it was on when I was still in school.
2014 was the second movie, so that was, 8 years ago.
All right, well, fair enough. So the idea is this is like, I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but it sounds like it's the family dinner every Friday, and the plot just kind of revolves around them at the dinners.
Yeah, they got like the family drama of the week, the neighbor that shows up.
Okay.
Yeah, just general nonsense.
Yeah. What's interesting is this is actually the 4th attempt to remake it in the US. This is the first one that's gotten past the developmental stage for some reason.
Oh boy.
So yeah. So Freevee is
yes, that is real promising. I don't know. I quite like the original show from what I've seen. I've seen probably 2 or 3 seasons, which is probably about half the show. But it's good. I'd recommend checking it out if you like British sitcoms.
Yeah, the US version will be a single camera half-hour comedy. 2 brothers who go to their parents for dinner once a week. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the same thing, pretty much.
It's a pretty broad premise. You can kind of do a lot with that.
Yeah. So there you go. Next up, now I've put this with the comedies because I'm assuming it's comedy. It doesn't actually say one way or the other, but
okay.
Given that it's based on an Instagram account,
I hate this already.
And Kenan Thompson's company's the one producing it, I feel like I'm going to lean to comedy. So
I hate this. I hate whatever this is.
My therapist says is an Instagram account with 7.5 million followers, and it's been developed into a live-action series. That's all it says, live-action series. So I'm going with comedy, but they can correct me later if they wish. So Yeah, SNL star Kenan Thompson and John Ryan Jr. Their company is Artists for Artists. They're doing it. So it marks one of the most high-profile Instagram accounts to be developed as a series, and it follows a number of Twitter accounts back in the day that were turned into TV shows, such as William Shatner's "Shit My Dad Says." Although that didn't last. I heard that was really bad. I don't think it lasted very long. But yeah. I mean, I think the Twitter account is meant to be funny, but the TV show less so.
But yes, because things that you read on a tweet, which at the time would have been 140 characters, can give you a small chuckle.
Yes.
Do not necessarily hold up to a 20-minute episode of a TV show. Well,
this viral account is operated by co-founders Lola Tash, Nicole Aridris, Nora Tash, and Gina Tash. Why is the one who's not named Tash in the middle of that list? Put them at the end, or put them at the start.
Put all the Tashes together, is what you're saying?
Yes, because then I could just say Laura, Nora, and Gina Tash. What were their parents thinking?
I love how like two of them rhyme, and there's like, and then Gina.
Also, like the irony of having the last name Tash, but you don't have a bunch of boys who all have mustaches.
Well, maybe they do. They're just not involved in this Instagram account.
Oh, maybe they do. Yeah, maybe there's some brothers who have mustaches. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the Tash family and Nicole.
Friend of the family, Nicole.
Yes. It was launched in 2015 and features memes focused on mental health and general messiness of life. They'll produce the series alongside Thompson and Ryan Jr. Also wrote a book on the account called My Therapist Says, Advice You Should Probably Not Follow. So
right. I'm very cynical about this, obviously. I understand why people follow that as an Instagram account, right? Mm-hmm. I understand going, oh, hey, you'll scroll through your feed and a meme will pop up every so often and you'll go, huh, little chuckle, whatever. That makes perfect sense to me. I follow shit posting pages on Twitter and Facebook, right? That makes sense to me. I wouldn't want any of those to be a TV show.
Just on memes, I saw something this week. It was basically like, you can't guess a Wheel of Fortune without any characters, right? And it was a screenshot from, probably an ancient episode. It just happens, people just doing the rounds in the recent years because of something. Mm-hmm. And like, now you can do it. Just look at this one. And it was like, 80s song. And you look at all the blank spaces and you go, it's Rick Astley.
Yeah. You didn't have to say anything. I was like, I know what it is, damn it.
Yeah, it's clearly never going to give you up, never going to. So, I just popped it in my head. I had to share it with the world. I mean, it's been going around for a while, I think. I saw it again, though, this week, and it made me chuckle again.
Just on that, something we have like a playlist at work for, our own like place of like mostly shit music that we put on at the end of the night just to like have on in the background that's not the work playlist. And it's got something like 400 songs in it. Yet still, Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up, manages to work itself into the shuffle most nights. I don't know how it does it, but it always just comes on at some point in the night. It's always funny.
Oh, well, there you go. So, yes, this is... So it's a bunch of memes that are getting turned into a TV show.
It's going to be terrible. I won't point out, I do not blame any of the people behind the page for doing this because I'm sure they get a pretty healthy payout.
Yes.
Take it.
There's some quotes here from some of them. Lola Tash said, Nicole, Nora, and Gina I created My Therapist Says with only a dream, and it grew and resonated with people in the most remarkable of ways. We are first and foremost advocates for mental health and will continue to explore and illuminate the importance of mental health in organic and humorous ways in this series. Does anyone really start an account on Instagram or Twitter and go, I'm starting this account because I have a dream? I don't know.
They probably do now.
Well, they may do now because people are getting successful and making money.
I mean, I think they're more likely to style on TikTok these days, but yeah.
Yes. But there you go. That's my Therapist Says. I mean, I don't know if the show's going to be called that, but that's
not a terrible name for a TV show, though. So
nah, that's all right.
I can see them using it.
It's not bad. All right, on to our batch of dramas for the week. So first up, Andrew Garfield is going to star in an FX. Oh, sorry, I just got nominated for an FX. Oh, that's a good point. I was going to get the Emmy nominations up and talk about those as well.
Well, we can do them at the end.
We can do them at the end. I was going to do that. Honestly, that would have probably been like at the start of the show if I'd remembered to get the page up for it. But
the only thing I know about them is one person finally got the nomination they deserve. Do you know who I'm on about?
Gary Busey?
Yeah, but it's a good answer.
Well, Pet Judge is an incredible feat of television.
I agree. And it deserves an Emmy every year.
Yes. Anyway, so yes, Andrew Garfield is going to be in Hot Air, which is a new limited series that David Leitch is going to direct for Universal, and he's going to play Richard Branson.
Okay.
The 6-part limited series Hot Air is based on the book Dirty Tricks by award-winning investigative journalist Martin Gregory. It tells the story of billionaire Branson and the fascinating, outrageous rise of Virgin Airways. Yes, I know because I need some history about Virgin Airways, but
that sounds like such an Andrew Garfield project.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I don't know if I care enough to watch it, but interesting casting. I'll give them that.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. Yeah. I don't really know a whole lot about Brad. I mean, obviously I know his name. You know, I know he's like what his stature is, but you know, I honestly I know a lot about him in like is he a prick like some of the other billionaires that seem to
I just assume so.
Yeah, well, you can assume he's a prick.
He comes across. I assume he is, but he has a public persona of being fairly charismatic, I guess. I
know he's the one with the island. He's got his own little island.
Yeah,
that he stays on with his own laws and tax rules or whatever.
Yeah, if you could afford it, wouldn't you?
I mean, I'm not necessarily blaming him, but yeah. I mean, does he tax himself? I don't know. Maybe he does. Maybe he just does it for the outrageous idea of bookkeeping taxes for himself. Like, oh, did I pay this shit? I did. Oh, pat in the back, me.
Yeah.
So that's Hot Air.
Okay.
That's a bit farty.
So that was on FX.
No. The show that you just got nominated for was on FX.
Okay.
That's not got a network yet. Universal are behind it, so it could end up on your Peacock. It could end up on your USA network or whatever.
It could end up anywhere, really. Though
it could end up anywhere, but if you're going to go with like someone tied to the production company,
if it was tied to them, I assume they'd want it on Peacock to try and like promote serious content, so they can kind of like, hey, you know, we got some prestigious dramas that we can compete with Apple and Netflix, right?
Yes, come see the star of Amazing Spider-Man 2 play Richard Branson in Hot Air.
Hey, Amazing Spider-Man's having a resurgence, and you know it.
Yeah. All right, next up, Lionsgate TV and Paramount Plus. So I presume Paramount Plus will be the place where it goes. Are developing a series based on Warrior, and there's a few things called Warrior, so I'll be specific here as to which one it is. Warrior being the Tom Hardy MMA movie from about 2011. Gavin O'Connor, who worked on the original film, is turning it into a 10-episode series, with potential more seasons. It's not a limited series. For Lionsgate TV, and Paramount Plus are developing it. And he's in talks with retired 2-time UFC champion Daniel Cormier and Gina Rodriguez, to play 2 of the 4 main characters in the show. It's not an adaptation of the movie. It's not the same characters. It's kind of like taking the idea of building drama around the sport and sort of going further with it, rather than, you know, taking those, you know, the movie's done, the movie is what it is. This is
probably the smarter choice, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say this is better. Like, I would much rather it tries to say, okay, let's sort of take the general idea and do something new with it, rather than, oh, we're just going to lavishly, you know, somehow Palpatine returned. Like, you know, don't do that.
Yeah, I'd say, honestly, like, if they had decided to just retell that story, they probably could have got away with it, because I've not seen it, but I'm assuming it follows a pretty typical sports movie trajectory.
It's got the specific sort of hook, which is the 2, so it's Tom Hardy and Edgerton and their brothers, and they sort of like are separated, and their father sort of made them like fight each other a lot as a kid, and then they end up in the finals of a tournament together, and it's kind of
right. Okay, broad strokes, though, that's sports movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can turn that into a TV show, like a 10-episode show, and that would work probably perfectly fine. Like you could have adapted that pretty directly.
Yeah, so O'Connor is creating it with Adair Cole, who will be EP and co-showrunner on it as well. And apparently it was him that convinced O'Connor to sort of like come back to the idea and sort of do something else with it. He was like, he'd done his movie, he was content. Like he wasn't necessarily going to do more. But the series is different from the original film. Its connective tissue is MMA and the heart, desperation, and demons that compel fighters to excel in the cage. The film starred Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton and Nick Nolte, the latter of whom trained his two sons and was an awful father who created grudges between the brothers that get settled in the ring in drama that was much about family, faith, and dysfunctional upbringings as fighting.
Yeah, I'm getting a ball.
You could have that. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, they're going to do something new with it.
Ultimately empty.
I think it's interesting to take something that works as a sports movie and then turn it into an ongoing thing, because, you know, you can have like different tournaments each season, but that can't be the only thing it's about, because otherwise it just would get repetitive. So
yeah,
I think it's creatively a bit challenging in a good way for them to tackle it this way. So cool. There you go. That's the Warrior. So that's something that Paramount Plus might have its hands on very, very soon. So cool. Next up, Apple TV Plus is getting ready with Ferrari, a TV show from Stephen Knight, who created Peaky Blinders, which I've never seen. It doesn't appeal to me, but I do love the movie Stephen Knight did, starring Tom Hardy. Just to bring up Tom Hardy again, who's the honorary guest of this episode, apparently. Locke. Yeah. Locke's fantastic. I love Locke.
Phenomenal movie. And Peaky Blinders has been on my to watch list. I've seen bits and pieces, mostly that have been used for memes. And I know just enough that I'm like, yeah, I might enjoy it, but also I might be bored by it. So I've kind of put it off, but maybe I'll give it a try just because Stephen Knight and, you know, Cillian Murphy's pretty good.
He did another show with Tom Hardy that we did watch the first episode of, and I really didn't like it.
That was Taboo, right?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. That was just Tom Hardy mumblecore, though.
Yeah, which is kind of what I'm worried about. I'm worried that Peaky Blinders is just Cillian Murphy mumblecore.
No. From the little clips that I've seen,
okay,
he is very animated and expressive.
Very vocal, is he? Okay.
Yeah.
So, created and written by Night Ferrari, is based on Luca Del Monte Ferrari Rex. That's the name of the book that he did, clearly. And it'll examine how, in the pursuit of pure speed, the driver and the entrepreneur dedicated to his genius to building the fastest racing car in history, but left a trail of tragedy and torment along the way. Between 1956 and 1961, deeply wounded by the death of his firstborn son Dino, and by what considered betrayal by his lead driver Juan Manuel Fangio, I'll say, Ferrari rebuilt his racing team from scratch, selecting 5 promising rising stars of motor racing to fight for victory. This is also possibly a bit of a sports movie vibe to it as well. Now that I'm reading the rest of that.
I agree. 100% feels like sports movie stuff, which I you know, it's not necessarily a genre I gravitate towards, but I do appreciate how they work on TV pretty well, especially as limited series. Like if you just do it as a season at a time. I think because a lot of the problems I have with sports movies are that middle section where you've got to go through them winning a section, you know, a bunch of fights, races, games, whatever it is, you know, getting towards the end of the tournament. And it always feels like, for me anyway, it feels like there's this accelerated pacing in like that middle third of most sports movies, not all of them. I feel like, you know, spreading that out over 6, 8, 10 episodes of a TV show lets you actually explore that a little bit more. And you don't just have, here's the series of wins. You can actually have some ups and downs over the course of a season or whatever the tournament is.
Yeah, I think it's funny to me that I like this feels like a prequel to Ford v Ferrari, because that's Le Mans 66. So this is like, this is only like, you know, I mean, if it says between 56 and 61, this is going to end 5 years before that. So when Ferrari became the dominant force in, you know, race car driving,
which essentially tells you, just with your cursory knowledge of history, thanks to a movie that was a couple of years ago, you kind of know, well, this ends with some success on his part.
Yeah. Which, that movie's really annoying though, because for some reason in Europe they decided to change the title to Le Mans 66, and it's like, I get that maybe that's like less dumb as a title, because Ford v Ferrari sounds a bit, Hollywood, but it's just annoying having different titles for searchability's sake.
I agree with that. I think Le Mans 66 is a better title. And I think they're assuming, I guess, that Europeans, generally speaking, will have more frame of reference for that. Whereas Ford v Ferrari is a lot more simplistic, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Let's just pick one, it's fine. Steve McQueen was in a movie called Le Mans, and that was called that in the US. So, I mean, are they saying people have gotten dumber in the last 40 years? I mean, maybe they have.
Well, I mean, I've seen the evidence for that in my own eyes.
Yeah, so this is a thing that's coming. This is a Ferrari TV show. So
hopefully it looks pretty good as well. I think, if you're doing a sports show or your movie, it's important that you capture the sport, make it look good on camera. And we don't really speak about that with the Fine One, but I think this goes for both those shows. That I hope the visual element of just showing the fights or the races in this case looks good.
Yeah. All right, so one last article before we get to Emmy nominations then, since we're apparently wrapping the shop with that this week. This has a few shows on it, though.
Okay.
It's a kind of a selection. So Julie Plec is ramping up development with a bunch of shows, including an adaptation of a young adult novel. I'm not so sure any of these are going to be to our liking, necessarily, but...
well, then hit me.
Yeah, but... Yeah, so Julie Plec is the co-creator of The Vampire Diaries, just to put this in maybe some expectations here. So the first project is called Clifton, and it's based on Margaret Peterson Haddix's novel Running Out of Time. The series, which is in the works at the NBCU streamer Peacock, so this is a Peacock show.
So I can forget this ever existed, like everything else with Peacock.
Follows a 17-year-old Jazzy Smith, who was born and raised in the idyllic island village of Clifton, a sanctuary for runaway slaves and others who fled the United States at the height of the Civil War. Oh, it's in the past. I didn't even realize it was in the past until I said that part. When a mysterious stranger from the mainland washes up on the shore, Jazzy learns the truth about the island's origins, and it shatters everything she thought she knew to be true. I think that counts as the secret. Yeah,
God damn it, they're going to make me finish this bottle with this story, aren't they? This article.
Oh, dear. Something about your past is not what it seems. So that's Clifton. Briar Park's writer Aisha Porter Christie has also worked on Amazon spin-off The Boys, is adapting the script. So, yeah, you got some different people there involved. Next up, we have Douglas Medical.
Thrilling, yeah.
It's not a good title, is it? It's a very...
No, it's really bad. Douglas is a pretty bad name on its own as well. Then you throw medical.
So it follows Dr. Vanessa Pilgrim, who, when she suffers a devastating professional scandal, she's forced to return home to Washington, D.C. Yes! Returning home is the premise of the show. That's a drinking rule for you.
I've got one more out of this bottle, and then I've got to find another one.
That's debatable, I think, but yeah, sure.
It's a small one, I admit.
So she's forced to return home to Washington, D.C. to build a new life as Associate Chief of Emergency Medicine at Douglas University Hospital. That's not that bad sounding for someone who's just suffered a scandal, to be honest.
Oh, how dare they have to go to a new place and build a nice fancy career?
Associate Chief, I mean, that sounds reasonable. A struggling teaching hospital on the campus of the historically black college. The only problem is the job comes with whispers of nepotism, pressure from her mother, who is the dean of Douglas Medical School, and a reckoning with an 18-year-old secret.
So, hang on. The secret is one. I acknowledge, so I've got to drink that one. The question is, does involving the mother in this, is it worded enough to be personal and professional, or is it just like two elements that they have thrown into the description?
I'll give you a pass on it, mainly just because it says whispers of nepotism, and the fact that then her mother's involved. I feel like it's at least tying enough. You could argue that just it being her mother is enough to say that you're bringing family and professional together, but I'll give it a pass. But you got the secret anyway, so there you go. The Shy executive producer, Ayanna Floyd, is the creator-writer of Douglas Medical.
Yeah, just want to say, very much enjoyed that ball.
Very, very good. We'll see if the next one can...
Just for interest for anyone, Famous Grouse Smoky Black. A smoky version of the very cheap Famous Grouse. Also very cheap, because I'm not wasting my good stuff on this.
We'll see how many more drinks you have to take. You may have to go to the good stuff if you go through enough.
Don't worry, I got good old bells here. A big 1 litre bottle that cost me a whopping £16.
I know that's cheap for booze, but to me that sounds extortionate to spend on a bottle of
that is cheap. It is very cheap. Might actually be illegally cheap for you where you are. Because Scotland has minimum prices, like per, like depending on the strength of the alcohol, it has like a minimum price per unit. This might at this size of bottle and the units that it is, might be not allowed to be sold for less than like 20 quid.
Okay, oh, okay, fascinating. All right, next up, Freeman is the title of the next show.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It's centered around a family that moves to a small, picturesque town in Georgia after acquiring a lucrative inheritance, including the mysterious house known as Freeman Manor. It's soon discovered that there are mysteries and darkness hidden within the walls and the town at large that go back generations. I think you'd avoid that.
I'm good. I'm good in that one.
Snowpiercer writer Adam Starks, who worked with Pleck on Vampire Academy, is the creator-writer. So that's Freeman. And then Stay Gold is the next one. It's a romantic dramedy about a transgender teenager who begins his senior year of high school struggling to establish a new identity in the face of a new school and environment while trying to win the love of the girl of his dreams. It's based on a Tobley Smith novel. Sorry, Tobley McSmith. Do you know what? Both those names are names that look like other names, because I thought it was Toby Smith. I was like, oh no, it's Tobley McSmith. Yeah, so there you go.
I'll give my thoughts of the show, then question. Okay, not for me, but sure, cool.
Yeah.
2. Does the way that phrase, the school life, and then his, and moving, being this personal thing, count as personal and professional? Read that again, that back half of it. Establish
a new identity in the face of school and environment while trying to win the love.
Like the schooling identity feels like that's the professional. Like that,
yeah.
That count? Like the way they've phrased it definitely fits into that mold.
That sounds like you're gasping for another drink, to be honest. It's a bit of a stretch. But I could see kind of why you're trying to argue it.
I mean, you're the final arbiter on this. So
okay.
You made the call, but like the phrasing of it made me think.
I wouldn't say it is. It didn't stick out to me as falling into that trap.
Okay, no drink.
So
and let's be honest, I don't need an excuse to have a drink. If I want one, I will just pour one.
And I'm all for using school to mean professional if it's a character of a certain age, but
which this character is.
Yes, but I wouldn't say it quite fits in this one. So McSmith is adapting this with Arrow co-executive producer Drew Greenberg. So you get an Arrow alumni.
So we've had Vampire Diaries, Vampire Academy, and Arrow involved in all of these shows so far.
Yep.
Ooh.
The final show.
There's a reason these aren't for us, isn't
there? The final show in this list is This Savage Song, which is based on a novel by Victoria Schwab, who will adapt alongside Pleck. It is a romantic horror fantasy about two teens in a broken world where violent acts breed actual monsters. Gina Marshershi will executive produce alongside Pleck and Cummins.
I actually really like the sound of that one. Just on a conceptual level.
Sure.
That kind of sounds fun.
These projects join Confessions of a Drug-Addicted High School Teacher, based on an article by Jason Smith that reunites Pleck with Paul Wesley, who's attached to star and executive producer. So, yeah, so basically, it seems like after the success of the vampire shows, Julie Pleck's got a bit of cred and is developing a bunch of shows with different people.
They were pretty successful shows, to be fair.
So, that is the slate that is coming out of it. So, Needless to say, it does sound like a whole host of things that I can just happily ignore because, well, I didn't find much appeal in the Vampire Diaries, so
ignore until the patrons ask you to watch the pilots. When I say ask, I mean demand.
Should they remember? But that's assuming there's not other more interesting things they actually want me to look at that month, which is possible.
That's true. Did we have a home for all of these?
No,
any of them.
The first one was Peacock, but the rest were all just in development. So
okay, because a lot of these I can see on traditional network TV.
CW and Freeform, I feel like, are the homes for most of them.
I agree. And should that be the case, they're coming out in typical pilot season.
Mm-hmm.
And that means the patrons have to pick and choose.
Yeah, they can't get all of them. Yeah, there you go. That's assuming, of course, that they all hit at the same time, which isn't necessarily.
That's assuming any of them even actually get made.
There's a lot of ifs. Yeah, so that was the last story, but I did actually want to put in the Emmy noms, at least some of the key categories. I was going to do it earlier in the show, but I forgot, so here it is at the end. So we got the Emmy nominations this week. So we'll start. I'll just do them in order that they're in the Wikipedia, are the ones that I want to look at. Outstanding Comedy Series, the nominations are as follows: Abbott Elementary from ABC, Barry from HBO, which I've heard good things about. Tim raves about Barry.
I have heard some people saying it's their favourite show of all time.
That is bold, but yeah, I've heard good things about it. Curb Your Enthusiasm from HBO, Hacks from HBO, and for the record, HBO, every time it mentions it, is HBO/HBO Max. I'm just going to say HBO. It includes HBO Max. Just roll with it. Okay. The Marvelous Miss Maisel from Amazon Prime. Only Murders in the Building from Hulu. I guess that is the way you say it. Ted Lasso from Apple TV.
Yeah.
And What We Do in the Shadows from FX, which interestingly, season 4 just started this week, so this will be season 3 that's actually been nominated.
Maybe that's what I'll do after this. Maybe I'll go catch up on. See, this week I had planned to watch Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
Or I could watch the 2 seasons of What We Do in the Shadows I need to watch instead.
Do both.
I mean, I could do both.
Stop slacking, do both.
Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of classic Doctor Who I want to watch.
Definitely don't do that. So as far as those commentary entries go, I'm personally a fan of What We Do in the Shadows and Ted Lasso. I do love Curb Your Enthusiasm, but I've not seen its recent season or 2. But I suspect it's probably earned that. And I've heard good things about Barry. I liked the first episode of Hacks. So I've sampled about half these shows healthily enough.
From just like my perception, of browsing Twitter, Barry and Ted Lasso are the ones that are the 2 highest profile ones that might win, I would say.
I could see that.
Amazing Miss Maisel, is that it?
That did well in its first season or 2, didn't it?
Yeah, that's won a couple, or at least it's definitely been nominated a lot. I think it maybe won 1 or 2 already as well.
I think what's notable to me is that there's only one traditional network show on that entire list. That's the ABC show.
Which I've not heard of.
Yeah, the rest are all, there's 3 HBO noms in this category. 1 Amazon, 1 Hulu, 1 Apple, and FX, I guess, is traditional cable, I suppose, if you want to look at it that way, but...
I mean, so is HBO, to be fair.
It's true.
Yeah. Like, obviously, I'm not sure if any of those are actually HBO Max originals.
I think Hacks is Max, I think, yeah.
Which definitely falls more under the streaming side, but the other 2 HBO ones are
they're kind of blurring.
Traditional cable.
I feel like traditional cable and streaming are blurred, because even FX goes straight to Hulu now. There's a lot of
that's true.
blurring of what's what now with that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Worth mentioning that. Then we got Outstanding Drama Series, as expected. Better Call Saul from AMC, Euphoria from HBO, which I've heard is high quality.
I've heard very good things about the first season, and then I've heard it goes off the rails from quite a few people. So that's interesting to see that being nominated here.
Ozark's final season from Netflix. We tried the first episode and did not like it. Thought it was a poor man's Breaking Bad.
People loved the rest of that show, though.
I know people cheer about it. I did not like that first episode that much, but
no, I thought it was very mediocre.
Severance from Apple TV, which I'm planning to go back and watch the rest of the season because I didn't quite get to finish it, but I really liked what I saw. Was really into it and looking forward to season 2. So I'm going to go back and finish. I watched the first 5 out of let's say 10 episodes. I think I've seen literally half of it.
That's my Apple Plus expired. I'll pick it up again when Ted Lasso comes out, and that's when I'll maybe catch up on some other stuff like Severance, unless anything else hits in the meantime that I'm really interested in.
Next up, Squid Game from Netflix, which I believe marks the first time a foreign language show has been nominated in just Best Drama ever.
Well, that's a crime, because Dark should have been nominated.
I think Squid Game deserves to be there. It is arguably the best season of TV of the last year. Arguably.
Very strong claim, even with the arguably. I mean, at least you're allowing wiggle room.
Certainly out of season one, out of new shows.
Oh, okay, new shows. Definitely. That's a different question.
Obviously, if you compare it to obviously established shows, I guess a bit hairier to compare and compete.
I'm definitely not undermining the fact that it deserves a nomination, though.
Did you ever get around to watching it?
I've seen the first episode, and then I got really busy, and I was like, okay, now I need. And I went 3 weeks after watching the first episode before I was going to watch the second. I'm like, I kind of just want to sit down and watch it all properly, and I just haven't got back to it yet.
Well, it's bloody excellent, I'll say that.
I'm not disputing that.
Stranger Things, probably just getting in time, but it's most recent season.
I'm surprised that made it in. I suspect that's only because of the first.
People speculated that part of the reason why they did the split and not just wait until it was all done is because they wanted to get some of it into this Emmy season.
I would not be surprised if that was the case.
I mean, I'm happy because I like the split, and I want it to be more split. Go weekly, Netflix, do it, you scum.
Like I say, I loved what they did with Arcane, where it was 3 episodes a week over 3 weeks. That was a step in the right direction for me.
Succession from HBO, which I do hear people talk about a lot. I haven't seen it myself.
Rave about that, and I definitely have that on my to-watch list.
And then finally, Yellow Jackets from Showtime, which I've heard that be specifically recommended to me. So it is something I'm considering if I've got time, squeezing in maybe a viewing of the season.
It's interesting. I'm not gonna lie, for half a second there, when you were halfway through that, I thought you were going to say Yellowstone, and we were going to have the return of Yellowstone to this podcast. Actually,
what's funny, I saw an article on Deadline about how Yellowstone as a bouquet of shows has been pretty much snubbed.
That's kind of surprising,
despite how popular it is, which is interesting.
It seems like awards bait as well, with a lot, being
cast.
Period pieces, the cast. Not all of it's period pieces, but some of it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, certainly, I can't argue with Better Call Saul on there. It is phenomenal. Certainly, out of the new shows, I think Squid Game and Severance are the ones that stick out to me. Stranger Things, I mean, I love it. I think it's really good at what it does.
Honestly, the only surprise to me is Euphoria, because I did not hear people like this recent season at all. Everyone I saw talking about it was really disappointed in it. Yeah. But maybe that's just the circles I see. But that's the only one that surprises me in that list.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I think has been snubbed from the last year, but I'm trying to think back to...
Boys.
Yeah. Has that ever been nominated, though? Has that ever gotten...
I doubt it ever will be.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think if there's anything that I would say was snubbed, but I'm honestly trying to remember what I watched TV wise from summer to end of last year is difficult. But
yeah, when was the last season of Dark?
Oh, that was way before that.
was that long ago?
Oh yeah, Dark was 2 or 3 years ago at this point.
No, it wasn't.
It was
the final season.
It was 2020 at the latest.
God damn it was. Time has no meaning anymore.
Yeah, total nonsense. All right, looking at some other categories then. So, outstanding limited series or anthology series, the nominations. Hulu's got 3 of these ones. Dope Sick, The Dropout, and Pam and Tommy. Netflix has got Inventing Anna, and then HBO has got The White Lotus. That's the 5 limited or anthology series. I saw the first episodes of Dropout and Inventing Anna. Neither were for me. They weren't terrible or anything, but neither were for me.
Yeah, I actively avoided Pam and Tommy when I realized how kind of sketchy it was. That they were actively asked, "Hey, don't do this story."
Yeah, the fact
did it anyway.
Yeah, the fact that Pamela Anderson, I don't know if it was just her, or if it was both of them, said we'd rather this wasn't told and shown.
Yeah, the story's obviously out there in public knowledge anyway, but let's not glorify this and make it a TV show, please. And then they did it anyway as kind of just shitty. right?
Yeah, it's a bit shitty. Yeah.
Even if I haven't actually seen it, but even if the quality of it is good, which it might be, it's still a shitty move.
Yeah, outstanding competition program we don't really care about, so I'll just I'll just move on. Or talk show, or sketch show.
The one I alluded to earlier with the nomination finally being recognized was in Best Actress, I believe.
Yeah, I was just looking. Yeah, okay, so yeah, we'll let the acting ones then. I'll just do them in order here though. So, lead actor in a comedy series, we've got Donald Glover for Atlanta, we got Bill Hader for Barry, we got Nicholas Hoult for The Great, we got Steve Martin for Only Murders in the Building, Martin Short for Only Murders in the Building, and Jason Sudeikis for Ted Lasso. So that is your lead actor in a comedy series. Alternatively, in the actress side for comedy, you've got Rachel Brosnan for Marvelous Miss Maisel, Quinta Brunson for Abbott Elementary, Kelly Kuoko for The Flight Attendant. Is that a comedy?
Yeah.
I thought that was like a mystery drama, but okay. Ellie Fanning for The Great, Issa Rae for Insecure, and Jean Smart for Hacks. So that's your lead actresses for comedies. And then you go down to the dramas. You got lead actor. You've got Jason Bateman for Ozark, Brian Cox for Succession, Lee Jung Jae for Squid Game, which also is quite notable.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. He is. I mean, he's great on it. I mean,
again, I haven't seen enough to give an opinion on it, but it's just interesting. Even acknowledging a foreign language show is something, but to specifically acknowledge acting, I think, is more interesting because that nuance tends to get a little bit lost in translation.
Yeah. But no, it's exciting stuff. It's nice to see a foreign language show that's good get some recognition and break through the barrier, if you will, because
yeah, it was kind of the same thing like when Parasite was nominated for all the awards, right? Where it was obviously it was great that it won, but it was just nice to see it nominated for a lot of things, just because it was like, okay, no, we can have that now. It's
funny because film nerds have been saying that South Korea has been a great place for movies since like the early 2000s, because that's when like Chan-wook Park was doing Old Boy and Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, and you had Save the Green Planet and just a variety of great movies. And it's just kind of funny that 20 years later, like it's kind of like finally hitting the mainstream. They're like, oh, South Korea's making good shit. What's happening here? So it's just nice
time, right?
Bob Odenkirk for Better Call Saul.
Absolutely deserved.
Unsurprised. Adam Scott for Severance. Which is an interesting role he has to play in that, because he's playing like two versions of the same character, effectively.
All the more reason to be nominated then, I would say, assuming he's good at both of them.
Yeah, because it's more subtle differences, because it's, they might kind of effectively come from the same person, but one has the memories of his life and the other one doesn't. So it's kind of, it's just an interesting character to tackle, I'd say. And then Jeremy Strong for Succession. So that's outstanding lead actor in a drama series. Yeah, I mean, the ones I've seen, like I can't dispute any of the ones they've picked.
No, everything seems pretty fair there.
Yeah. So, not good stuff. Outstanding lead actress in a drama series. We've got Jodie Comer for Killing Eve. We got Laura Linney for Ozark. Melanie Linsky for Yellow Jackets. I didn't even realize she was in that. We got Sandra Oh for Killing Eve. Reese Witherspoon for The Morning Show. And Zendaya for Euphoria.
Yeah, they're all pretty much as I expected, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah. I learned that it's actually Zendaya and not Zendaya, which I was saying forever.
Were you?
Yeah, I used to say
I didn't realize you were saying. I'm not sure I've ever listened to you say it, to be honest.
Yeah, but it's Zendaya, apparently.
That makes sense, yeah.
There's
both the Killing Eve nominations don't surprise me.
There's a podcast I listen to occasionally. It was actually a wrestling podcast, but the host was doing some movie stuff for like Cineworld as well. And he was so worried about getting Zendaya's name wrong when he was interviewing her and Tom Holland that he got her name right and then completely butchered Tom Holland's name.
How do you mess up Tom Holland's name?
Yeah. And I mean, it was just kind of funny, and they had a good joke about it. But that's effectively, he was so worried about messing her name up that he ruined the easy name.
Yeah. How do you get Tom Holland wrong?
I can't even remember what the mistake. I was like Tom Dolland or something. I did. But yeah, so where were we? So that was outstanding lead actress in a drama series. So outstanding lead actor in a limited or anthology or TV movie even. So they bundle all these together. Colin Firth for The Staircase, Andrew Garfield for Under the Banner of Heaven, Oscar Isaac for Scenes from a Marriage, Michael Keaton for Dopesick, Himesh Patel for Station 11, and Sebastian Stan for Pam and Tommy. These are the ones that I have less likely to have seen when we get to these limited and anthology series.
I'm not even as familiar with some of those, but most of the names there are ones that I recognize. Even if I'm not recognizing the project, they're names that I'm familiar with, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense that they get, if they did some sort of prestigious TV project and it was awards bait, that makes sense.
And then we got Outstanding Lead Actress in a Limited or Anthology Series or Movie. Toni Collette for The Staircase, Julia Garner for Inventing Anna, Lily James for Pam and Tommy, Sarah Paulson for Impeachment, American Crime Story, Margaret Qualley. Do you know what? I feel like it used to just be limited or movie, and they've added an anthology because things like American Crime Story were kind of muddy in the waters because each one was like its own limited series. So they've just said, no, it includes that too. That just blanket.
It's kind of fair, honestly.
Yeah. Margaret Qualley for Maid and Amanda Seyfried for The Dropout. So cool.
Again, I'd say mostly they're like film actresses doing prestigious TV projects. Margaret Qualley being the exception there.
Yeah, she feels like she's punching up a little bit, whereas the rest have all like taken a show to show themselves off a little bit. What sticks out to me, there's Julia Garner for Inventing Anna, because I saw the first episode of that, and I'm not denying that it's technically a good performance. However, the voice she was doing in it for this absurd Anna character was giving me a lot of Tommy Wiseau, right? Right, and I'm not saying the performance is bad, but the accent she was doing and sometimes the way she would react to things, I was getting like Tommy Wiseau inflections, and it was distracting as hell to me because all I wanted to do was make fun of everything. But
I can understand that urge.
But fair enough. I only saw one episode. Maybe she knocks out some dramatic beats and stuff as the show goes on.
Maybe it just gets less distracting as you get used to it.
Maybe. But anyway. Then supporting performances, I'll just run through these quickly. For comedy series actor, we've got Anthony Carrigan for Barry, Brett Goldstein for Ted Lasso, Tahib Jamal for Ted Lasso. That's Roy and Sam, respect. Oh, and we've got another one, Nick Mohammed for Ted Lasso. That's Nathan. We've got 3 Ted Lasso supporting actors in there.
Well deserved.
Tony, I may question Nathan slightly.
Fine.
Just slightly, because I feel like the Nathan story in season 2 was one of the shakier elements.
But that wasn't his acting that was the problem with that.
No. But I just, that's all I'm saying.
Roy stuff's gold though.
Oh yeah, it's Goldstein.
Yeah. Who I've seen. No spoilers for any specifics, but has joined the Marvel universe recently.
Tony Shalhoub for Marvelous Miss Maisel, Tyler James Williams for Abbott Elementary, Henry Winkler for Barry, and Bowen Yang for Saturday Night Live as various characters. I didn't realize that could be in there, but okay, sure enough.
Why not, right? You're turning in good performances.
Okay, so Ted Lasso sort of mopping up there. It's got a big cast, so it's got a lot of chances, I suppose, in a way to do it. So, because that's not even all the supporting male actors. There's another like 4 or 5 you could easily say are just as equally valid as in terms of screen time at least. Maybe not the performances, which is why I'm not here, but
I agree.
Outstanding actress, supporting actress in a comedy series, you've got Alex Borstein for Marvelous Miss Maisel. A lot of nominations for that as well, I'm noticing.
It usually does get quite a lot.
Hannah Einbinder for Hacks, Janelle James for Abbott Elementary, Kate McKinnon for Saturday Night Live as various characters, Sarah Niles for Ted Lasso. That's the therapist, Sharon.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't recognize that name because she was the doc all season. Yeah. So Cheryl Lee Ralph for Abbott Elementary. That's another one for that. Juno Temple for Ted Lasso. There's another one, and then Hannah Wedningham for Ted Lasso. So that's Keely and Rebecca.
3 for each. 3 each for Ted Lasso in supporting. So obviously Ted gets the lead actor because he's the only one that could be called that, and then everyone else gets supporting noms. Yeah, I'm not surprised.
That's
Basically, what we're saying is you should probably watch Ted Lasso if you haven't already.
it's mopping up apparently. Yeah. Um, if I was picking from the supporting actors, I'd pick Roy. I'd pick Brett Goldstein, and from the ladies' side,
Temple.
Yeah, I could be convinced with Rebecca, but for
it's closer between all three of them, if I'm honest.
Yeah, but okay, I can.
For me, yeah.
Do you know what? I'll say this: if Sudeikis gets it for lead actor, he got it because of the phone call. That's what I'm going to say it right now. If he wins Best Actor in a Comedy, he got it because of the phone call. And if you've watched season 2 of Ted Lasso, you'll know what the phone call is.
I'd say that, and maybe the stuff with the panic attacks.
Sure, I mean they're related, but yeah,
they are related, but specifically like those moments.
All right. Supporting actor in a drama series, we got Nicholas Braun for Succession, Billy Caldrup for The Morning Show, Kieran Culkin for Succession. There's a Culkin in there? There's a Culkin on that show?
They're everywhere.
Matthew McFadden for Succession, Oh Young-soo for Squid Game, so that's another Squid Game nomination. I'm trying to remember. It's hard to remember the character names because obviously it's all Korean names. I'm trying to remember which character that is. I'm just going to Google it just so that I know which one it is because it's bugging me that I don't.
Fine.
Oh, there's another Squid Game coming up as well, actually. Park Hae-soo for Squid Game as well, who played Cho Sang-woo.
You just getting up the IMDb page.
It's the old man. I thought it was the old man. Okay. Yeah, it was good. So two supporting noms for Squid Game then. John Turturro for Severance.
I didn't realize he was in that.
He's in, yeah. Also Christopher Walken for Severance.
I didn't realize he was in that. Can you tell I've not watched Severance?
Yeah, there's some surprising big names that pop up.
Because I knew about Adam Scott. I'm like, okay, that's the level I was expecting.
Well, fair enough. Outstanding supporting actress in a drama series, you've got Patricia Arquette.
Okay.
So that's for Severance. Julia Garner for Ozark. And she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for a Limited Series as well, right? That's also Julia Garner for Inventing Anna. Yeah.
I would assume so.
Yeah, I was just checking. Ho Young-jung for Squid Game. So that's another actor known for Squid Game. We're getting a lot of respect.
That's interesting, yeah.
Christina Ricci for Yellow Jacket. I didn't know she was in that.
Me either.
Rhea Seehorn for Better Call Saul.
That's the one I was on about earlier. That's her first nomination for Better Call Saul.
That's madness.
That's insane, given how phenomenal she's been on that show.
At the very least, I think the last 3 seasons she's deserved nominations. Yeah. So that's cool. You got J. Smith Cameron for Succession, Sarah Snook for Succession, and Sydney Sweeney for Euphoria. Who I know that actress because she was on one season of Handmaid's Tale. We did.
Was she?
Yeah, she was Nick's new young wife.
Oh, okay.
Sure, that was her. Yeah. All right. So, outstanding supporting actor in limited anthology or TV movie: Murray Bartlett for The White Lotus, Jake Lacey for The White Lotus, Will Poulter for Dopesick, Seth Rogen for Pam and Tommy, Peter Skarsgård for Dopesick, Michael Stolberg for Dopesick, or Steve Zahn for The White Lotus. So, White Lotus and Dopesick with one Pam and Tommy thrown in there for a bit of mix. Then supporting actress in the same category, you got Connie Britton for White Lotus, Jennifer Coolidge for White Lotus, Alexander Daddario for White Lotus.
There's a trend here.
Caitlin Dever for Dopesick, Natasha Rothwell for The White Lotus, Cindy Sweeney again for The White Lotus.
So that's 5 White Lotus nominations in that category alone.
And we're winging him for Dopesick. So that's 2 Dopesicks and 5 White Lotuses for supporting actress in an anthology TV movie or series.
Jeez. Well,
it makes me question how valid some of these limited series categories are when you're filling it up with 5 things from the same show or movie. You know?
Yeah. I guess not a lot of choice this year.
Yeah, but doesn't that mean that when we get to just what's the best limited series or anthology,
it's one of these, yeah.
It has to be White Lotus or Dopesick because they've been nominated in all the acting categories for everything.
Unless just even though the acting is phenomenal, one of the other shows is better in direction, it's better in cinematography, it's better in everything else.
Yeah, and White Lotus has a pretty big cast of notable names that I'm reading this list because
it does. Now that you've mentioned a lot of these names, I'm like, I had no idea any of these were in this.
yeah. So there you go. Fancy that. So directing, we got comedy series. We got this is interesting because they submit a specific episode, so I wouldn't really get into what those episodes are unless we've seen the show and know it. But Atlanta, Hiro Murai has a nomination. Bill Hader for Barry, who obviously is also the star, so it's kind of neat that he's getting a direction nomination. Lucia Anelio for Hacks. Mary Lou Bell for the Miss Pat Show. That's a BET show. Only Murders in the Building. That's Sherian Davies to get nominated for that. Jamie Babbitt for Only Murders in the Building. And MG Delaney for Ted Lasso, which is No Weddings and a Funeral. Which... You know, I don't think that's close to my favorite episode of the season, but fair enough. You know, if that's what they're nominating,
what they chose, yeah,
it's what they chose to submit. Mainly because I think the whole singing part of it, I won't spoil anything, but I would say it was a little bit TV contrived compared to most Ted Lasso writing.
That's fair, but also TV contrived is not necessarily out of place on the tone of the show.
I suppose. And to be fair, it's been nominated for directing rather than writing in this case, so arguably that's irrelevant, but typically speaking, you know, like the two go together in my head, and I remember a good episode overall and then think about why it's good, as opposed to, oh, this is a good episode, or with bad direction.
It's unusual to see good directing in spite of bad writing.
Yeah, and not it was a bad episode, but just not higher ranking in the season. Anyway, directing a drama series, we've got Jason Bateman for Ozark. We got Ben Stiller for Severance, who directed certainly the first 2 episodes, maybe more later in the season as well. Squid Game, Hwang Dong-hyuk get nominated, and the direction in that show is phenomenal. So I'm not surprised it's gotten that as well. Mark Mylod for Succession, Kathy Yan for the Disruption. Sorry, for Succession, that is. The Disruption is the name of the episode. And then Succession's got a second nomination as well for Lorraine Scarfaria for an episode of Succession. So I'll be honest, I wasn't sure that you could have 2.
I guess if they're by different directors.
Yeah, as long as they're different directors. Because there's one in comedy as well. Murders Left in the Building have one each as well. So fair enough. And then finally, you've got Karen Kusama for Yellow Jackets. And Karen Kusama is a phenomenal movie director. So this almost feels unfair because she's like did The Invitation and she's great. And I'm like, yeah, all these TV directors try to...
Has all of this made you more interested in watching Yellow Jackets?
It has, yeah. Honestly, seeing some nominations. And obviously, the fact that it's been recommended to my tastes is also a good sign.
Sure, there's that anyway. But then seeing the actual praise across the board like this.
Karen Kusama's name certainly does make me go, oh, hello. And to be fair, Ben Stiller's directed some good movies as well. Before anyone, yells at me for that. Like, I know he has. Cable Guy, I actually think, is an underrated movie. So, and Dodgeball's a good comedy.
It's a great comedy.
It's not holding up to like The Invitation movie to movie, but it's a good comedy.
If you told me to put one on right now, though.
I mean, I'll put it this way. I think Ben Stiller's direction in Severance is better than anything I've seen from his direction in movies.
That's fair.
The premise sort of lends itself to being very inventive as to how you have to portray it and keep everything like coherent
Fresh.
And stuff, because it could get confusing with the premise, but and then directing an limited anthology or TV movie, you got Danny Strong for Dopesick. Danny Strong!
Oh,
is this the same Danny Strong who portrayed Jonathan in the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Well, his name's clickable, so let's click on it and find out. It is Danny Strong! The hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I love how I'm becoming Tweety Pie with, is that someone from Buffy the Vampires? It is someone from the television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
It is someone.
I thought I saw a puddy cat. Then we got Michael Showalter for The Dropout, Francesca Gregorini for The Dropout. So Dropout's got a couple there. John Wells for Maid. Hiro Murai for Station 11. And that director got a nom in one of the other lists. Yeah, for
It was on the
Atlanta.
first one, I think.
Yeah, for Atlanta in the comedy section. So cool. And then finally, Mike White for The White Lotus. Did they hire him for his name?
I have really hoped so.
Did they say, you're perfect for this? And then writing, which arguably is even more important than TV land.
Yeah.
Well, this is our last section for the record. So comedy series, you've got Quinta Brunson for Abbott Elementary for the pilot. You've got Duffy Boudreau for Barry, as well as Bill Hader for Barry separately for different episodes. It's worth mentioning because they can get nominated each for one episode. We got Lucia Anello with Paul W. Downs and Jen Statsky for Hacks, so they all wrote an episode together. You got Steve Martin and John Hoffman for an episode of Only Murders in the Building. You've got Jane Becker for Ted Lasso for No Weddings and a Funeral. So I do dispute that a little bit. I don't think that's the best writing of the season, but I think the episode that ends with a phone call, which is the one with Jamie's dad at the football game, is the episode. I think that's the episode of the season. Yeah. I'm just glad it's not that horrible episode. There was the filler one with Beard, the After Hours one. Hated that episode.
I did not hate that as much as other people, but I understand why people didn't like it.
The other filler episode, which they did later, the Christmas one, was hilarious, so I had no problems with that.
Love that one.
Yes. The smell in the kid's breath, I won't spoil anything else, I'll just say that. Perfecto.
Yeah.
Right, anyway. What We Do in the Shadows, Sarah Naftales, I believe that name is. And it's the right episode. It's the casino. Yes. Best episode of the season, of season 3 of What We Do in the Shadows.
All right, well, I'm very excited to get to it.
Let's just say you'll be glad that the Big Bang Theory exists because of this episode.
I'm assuming you mean the Big Bang Theory is the TV show.
Yes, not the concept of the Big Bang Theory.
In general, I'm pretty glad.
Yeah, we're all glad that happens.
Exists.
Yeah, most of the time. Yes. But What We Do in the Shadows gets a second nomination. Stefani Robinson for The Wellness Center. So, yeah, also a good episode. But Casino's my favorite episode of the season. Rating for a drama series, we've got Better Call Saul. It's Thomas Schnoz specifically. And it is from obviously this first chunk. It's for Plan and Execution, which was the final episode before the break. And yes, it was the best one of that batch.
Yeah.
So fair enough. Ozark, Chris Mundy. Severance, Dan Erickson. I don't know if I got to that episode. I don't recognize the title. But then again, I wasn't necessarily reviewing all of them. So, Squid Game, One Lucky Day, Hwang Dong-hyuk. Succession, Jesse Armstrong. For Yellow Jackets, Ashley Lyle and Bart Nickerson. For an episode called F Sharp. And then for Yellow Jackets again, Pilot, which is Ashley Lyle and Bart Nickerson. So maybe it doesn't have to be different people. They just got 2 in. They managed to submit both.
Very interesting.
Yeah. I didn't think they could do that, honestly. I wonder what the rules are specifically then about submitting specific episodes. Alright. Rating for a limited anthology or TV movie. You've got Dope Sick, which is Danny Strong.
Of course.
Cue up for your reference.
Move it on.
Elizabeth Merriweather for The Dropout. We got Sarah Burgess for Impeachment. Molly Smith Mazier for Maid. Sorry, I said Molly Smith Meltzer is what I meant to say there, not Mazier. For Maid. Station 11 is Patrick Somerville, and then White Lotus, Mike White. Again. There you go.
Maybe he created the show and he named it after himself.
I'm starting to feel that way, to be honest. So that is all the categories that we care about, and I'll just say some of the stats because they are a bit interesting. What got the most things. So most nominations show wise is Succession with 12, and then second is The White Lotus, and I would say it's impressive that Succession won because I feel like the limited series had an advantage.
White Lotus had at least 8 in just acting alone.
Exactly. In fact, they had like 4 in one category or 5 in one category at one point.
I think it was a 5 and a 3.
So, which almost to me says I'd like to see these stats without the limited series, just because I feel like they've got like an advantage almost of like not being as crowded in some categories. But
Yeah.
but Weight Loss has got 11. Ted Lasso then with 10. Dope Sick with 9, which similar to Weight Loss, had a bit of an advantage in some places. Tied with 7, we have Barry, Severance, and Squid Game, which is an interesting.
That's fair.
Interesting mix. Then with 6, we got Abbott Elementary, Only Murders in the Building, Ozark, and Yellow Jackets. And then 5, we have The Dropout and Hacks. And then with 4, we got Better Call Saul, Marvelous Miss Maisel, Pam and Tommy, and Saturday Night Live.
Did anything have just one?
That's a good question. I'll go down at the end.
Because I think that's more interesting at this point.
Oh, it doesn't tell me. It stops with all the 2s.
Unless there wasn't any with just one.
Either there wasn't any, or they've just not bothered because they didn't think anyone would care.
Yeah.
So, it's an interesting mix.
When are the Emmys? Do you know?
September. I don't know the exact date in front of me, but September.
Oh, that's fine.
So cool. Shows with 5 or more total nominations. Oh, so that first thing I was looking at was just major nominations. Shows with 5 or more total nominations. Succession has 25.
Oh, okay.
What's that first table about then? I guess it's like categories rather than nominations themselves?
Maybe. Let's not go through minor nominations.
Oh.
We'll be here all night.
Well, those are just total nominations, but you've got Succession with 25, Ted Lasso and White Lotus with 20, Hacks with Only Murders in the Building with 17, Euphoria has 16, Squid Game has 14. Okay.
That still seems to pretty much line up in roughly the order they were.
It's a similar order, yeah, so I'm not really sure what the distinction between those are. I will say, just to rank the networks here, HBO came out way on top with 50.
I'm not surprised. They got Succession, they've got Hacks, they've got Euphoria. What else they got? Those are the 3 off the top of my head.
What else do they have? They have Succession. I think they have the White Lotus as well. That was theirs.
Was that them as well? Okay.
Yeah, Barry, HBO.
Oh, Barry, of course. I forgot about Barry.
So that's all their heavy hitters. Hulu came in second with 26. Then Netflix with 22. Apple TV Plus with 19. So Apple, given that it's only a couple of years old, Apple TV Plus is...
That's probably just Ted Lasso and Severance. Oh, the morning show had 1 or 2.
Had 1 or 2, yeah. But mostly Ted Lasso and Severance. Because after that, you go all the way down to 9 for ABC. The traditional networks.
Pretty much all of them will be that Abbott something, whatever it was.
Yeah. FX has got 8. CBS and NBC have 7. I think that's for stuff like Saturday Night Live and the variety and game shows. Like that's not the dramas and the comedies by and large. Because like you said, the only network show was that comedy from ABC. So Prime's quite low down. But
Prime will be just Miss Maisel, right?
Yeah, that's all they've got really that's getting awards. But Apple's keeping up with Netflix and Hulu. If anything, I'm surprised that Netflix is still getting as much as it is. I guess that's just Ozark and I think Inventing Anna kind of like propping up. Because obviously... Oh, and Squid Game, yeah, Squid Game. Yeah. So I'll be curious to see how they do next year when some of these things aren't there. Because Ozark's done.
Squid Game won't be out this year. I don't think.
Probably not. I mean, it's got until going by when this cutoff was this year. It's got until next May.
Yeah, it does, but I'll be surprised still.
Yeah,
I know. We didn't mention it at the start of the show, but Netflix has another event in September. Their Tudum event.
Oh,
obviously they had their Geeked weekend, I think, a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, they've got another one in September, late September, I think. So maybe they'll announce Squid Game there if they've got it, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I didn't realize that the Emmys would add on almost 40 minutes of extra show.
Nor did I. If I did, I'd have insisted on going to the toilet in the middle of all that. I was thinking, we're almost done. It's fine. I'll wait.
Yeah. It got more interesting, to be honest, to talk about. It's made me want to watch Yellow Jackets and Barry, to be honest. Like that's what reading through those is.
It's reminded me I want to watch Succession as well.
Sure, yeah. But you need to watch Severance and Squid Game.
I told you, Severance is when I next pick up Apple, which will be either Ted Lasso at the latest, or if something else catches my attention before that.
Well, there you go. There's the 74th Primetime Emmy Awards.
Next year's the big one.
Yeah. Well, I had to, because when I searched Emmys on Wikipedia, it gave me like 4 options, because there's like daytime Emmys, there's like sport Emmys and stuff. I was like, no, what's the one that we actually care about? I was like, primetime.
The regular important ones.
Yeah, it's primetime. Of course, it's primetime. It would have to be primetime. There's sports Emmys, daytime Emmys, and international Emmys. All this year. These are all stuff that's happening this year.
I'm sure they are.
Yes. There's also daytime creative arts and lifestyle Emmys and creative arts. Was that just primetime creative arts? Okay.
I don't care about any of these.
I don't care about those either. The sports happened already in May, so they've already had winners and stuff.
Okay. Fascinating.
Outstanding live sport. I'm just looking at the category for a second to see what they are. Outstanding live sports series. That's a weird award. Like, so
what
just
was nominated for that? Just some context.
So the winner was Monday Night Football, right?
Okay.
Which is on ESPN, and then the other nominees were Fox College Football on Fox, Fox MLB, NFL and CBS, and Sunday Night Football, which basically just means like
Pick your sport.
Well, it's not even pick a sport, because 3 of them are football and 2 of them are
There's at least one baseball in there.
One baseball and one. Right, there's 4 football. It's one baseball and 4 American football.
One was college football, though, right?
Okay, separate that, but the other 3, like, so NFL and CBS, Sunday Night Football, which is NBC, and then Monday Night Football, which is on ESPN 2, apparently. Those are all just the same leagues, just whatever games happen to be on a Monday or a Sunday or whatever the other night.
This is a stupid award series.
It is.
Well, like, who has the best presenters? Is that the point here?
Maybe, yeah, I guess maybe that's the point, because it's about the broadcast side of it, so it's about the presenters and the presentation as opposed to the actual,
like, the games. Yeah.
I guess.
Who cares? I don't think sports people care that much.
I mean, yeah, like outstanding sports documentary, and that one I understand. I can understand.
And I'm not saying that, for the record, I'm not saying that different like sports broadcasters don't put in effort and do work and don't deserve their own like little recognition. But as a generally speaking, do people care? Do sports fans who watch these various things, do they care which one is winning awards? I
imagine it's a smaller event than the actual Emmys. Just my
yeah, I would assume so.
Just my guess. And the daytime Emmys is all soaps and talk shows, by the looks of it. Just from a quick glance.
Yeah.
So there you go. That is this week's turned out to be relatively supersized TV news. So you are, I guess, welcome.
I guess you are.
Coming up this week on the channel, let me just get my schedule. Obviously, there'll be a classic Star Trek. In fact, actually, publicly, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the first review of that goes up this week, coming up. It's already up for patrons, of course, because patrons get it early at the $5 tier. Plug. But the first Deep Space Nine review will be up on Wednesday for everyone else. So that's kind of exciting, so check out that. There's nothing starting this week from a glance, but obviously we'll have the next Better Call Saul review up sometime during the week. Myself and Tara will be back to doing classic Twilight Zone. We're just recording the first one this weekend, so it'll be up for patrons this coming week. It'll be the following week before it's actually up publicly weekly again. But that's coming back because now we've got no new Star Trek to review. And of course, we'll have our classic Babylon 5 review up this week as well, as per usual. So, yeah. There you go. That is what's coming up TV-wise. And of course, over in MailFuzz Movies, myself and Tim on Streams After Midnight just did Hellraiser 9, Hellraiser Revelations.
9.
And it was made in a few weeks to keep the rights to Hellraiser IP. So
it's one of those. Okay.
Yeah, so that was a rough time. So that's just went up on the movie channel. And next week we'll have our bonus episode for patrons. On the Atomic Cinema Experiment, we've got Crimes of the Future coming up in the next couple of days. David Cronenberg's new film, so that's quite interesting. Might want to go check out that. Last movie we did was Oblivion, starring Tom Cruise, so it might be of interest too. So that's all my plugging. I'm done. Go to Patreon, like, subscribe, ding the bell, notifications, all that stuff. That is the show. Thank you very much for joining us for your weekly TV news. We'll see you next time. Keep watching TV. Have you got Any vanilla.